A wide, tree-lined dirt street in a 19th century town with people in period clothing and horse-drawn carriages.
In the year 1880, in the quiet town of Tuscumbia, Alabama, a child was born who would one day inspire the world. Her name was Helen Keller. At first, she was a healthy, bright-eyed baby, curious, lively, and full of promise.
A happy baby with blue eyes smiles from a wooden crib, bathed in sunlight from a window.
But fate had other plans. At just 19 months old, a sudden illness swept through her tiny body.
A young child sits on a carpet, looking up with wide, uncertain eyes, surrounded by wisps of smoke and glowing embers.
It came swiftly and left silently, taking with it her ability to see and to hear. The world became a place of silence, a place without shapes or sound. And for Helen, without words, there was only confusion, frustration, and isolation.
A grayscale close-up of a young girl with curly hair, eyes closed, hands outstretched in frustration, with small orange sparks around her.
She grew wild and untamed, not by nature, but by need. Her hands grasped for understanding. Her feet stomped in rage.
A young girl in a period dress screams in frustration in a formal living room, while two adults stand helplessly in the background.
Her cries were met with helpless love from her family, but no solutions. Until one day, hope knocked on the door in the form of a young teacher, Anne Sullivan.
A young woman in a dark coat stands at a doorway, holding a suitcase with bright golden light streaming from behind her.
And, just 20 years old and partially blind herself, entered Helen's life with fierce determination. She believed that even in darkness, light could be found. With nothing but a doll, a hand, and a heart full of patience, and began to teach Helen language, not through sound, but through touch.
A woman patiently teaches a young girl, wearing a blindfold, spelling letters onto the girl's hand while holding a doll.
Letter by letter, she spelled words into Helen's palm. But Helen didn't understand. Not yet.
A woman pumps water from an old-fashioned pump, and the water flows into the cupped hands of a young girl with braided hair.
Not until that unforgettable day. Standing by the water pump, and poured cool water over Helen's hand. As it rushed over her skin, and spelled, water.
Water pours from above into two cupped hands, with the word water superimposed above them, surrounded by sparkling effects.
In that moment, a spark. A breakthrough. A connection. Helen froze. She touched the water. She touched her teacher's hand.
A young woman with short hair reads a braille book, her fingers tracing the raised dots on the page.
She spelled back, water. And just like that, the door to the world opened. From that single word, came thousands more. Helen devoured them like light after a long night.
A young girl in a brown dress stands next to a water pump, reaching out her hand, looking up with a surprised expression.
She learned to read braille, to write with a typewriter, even to speak with her voice. But her education was only the beginning. Helen Keller went on to become the first deaf-blind person to earn a college degree.
A young woman with reddish hair types on a vintage typewriter, while another woman stands behind her, smiling and resting a hand on her shoulder.
She wrote books. She gave speeches around the world. She met presidents and kings. And more than anything, she became a voice for those who had none, a fierce advocate for people with disabilities, for justice, for dignity.
A woman stands at a podium, speaking to a large audience seated in rows, with flags from various nations behind her.
She once said, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it."
A man in a suit shakes hands with a young woman in a dark dress, both standing outdoors in front of a building.
Helen overcame, not just darkness and silence, but every limit the world tried to place on her. She proved that courage is not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to be defeated by it.
A silhouette of a woman stands on a grassy hill, facing a brilliant, glowing sunset with sparks floating in the air.
And so, the girl who once lived in darkness became a beacon of light for millions, a reminder that even in the deepest silence, the human spirit can sing.